Howdy, howdy. Welcome back. It's another Workshop Wednesday, and this week's edition is a strategy session. We're going to talk about how to actually talk to your clients when it comes to using GA4. Before we go too far into this, welcome if this is your first Workshop Wednesday. My name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer, and you should as well. I'm the co-founder of measurementmarketing.io, and however you found us through our podcasts and talks, maybe through some of the platforms we share a little bit of our content with, maybe you're already a full-fledged member over at measurementmarketing.io, and you are improving your measurement marketing skills there. However you found us, we're happy that you are here. It's our job to help people like you learn how to use all these fun tools. And of course, the tool of the year right now is GA4. That's what everyone's talking about and really what your clients should be talking about. So that's why we are discussing this. Now, the Measurement Marketing Academy is our flagship training program. So if you are really interested in leveling up your measurement marketing skills, you want to make sure that your company has a measurement marketing culture, because obviously we teach measurement strategy in addition to the actual tools. Remember, just because you know how to use a stove does not make you a good chef. Just like knowing how to use Google Analytics does not make you amazing at measurement, right? You need to learn the tool and the trade, and the Academy helps you with both. So you understand how to measure and why to measure and the strategy behind measurement, and then you also learn the tools so that you can actually make that strategy happen. That is what the Academy is all about. Now, with this workshop, really focus on one thing. There might be a particular question that you haven't really known how to answer, and maybe you get some ideas from that. Maybe there are some questions that you have not been asked and you need to bring them up with your clients, because that might be something that they should be asking, but they don't know to ask, right? So just think about what you can get from this particular workshop, take action on that. Then you can come back to this workshop, rewatch it, and pick up a next new one thing. All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Strategy session, talking to your clients about using GA4. Now, of course, we dive in with the framework. Remember, we're all marketing in the blind. We're trying to get to the point where we are reliably growing revenue and profits just using a simple measurement system. How do we do that? First, we plan. We make sure we're asking the right questions. We gather the information needed to answer those questions, and we know what actions we're going to take based upon the answers we get. GA4 dramatically helps with this because it can substantially improve the information that you can collect, which means you have a wider set of questions you can start asking, and that means more actions that you can take to improve results, or in this case, that your clients can take. Now, in the build, we talk about making sure that the platform, in this case GA4, understands the results you're trying to get. It knows where the traffic's coming from, and it's stitched together in a story format so that it ties traffic to the results caused by that traffic source. This is your part, right? As a measurement marketer, it's your job to set this stuff up for your clients. Then the launch, where you're actually listening to the conversation that's happening between the user and the website so you can identify your trends and patterns. You take those benchmarks, you can then start to forecast them. And then you measure against your forecasts so you know exactly where to optimize. So that's the measurement marketing framework in a nutshell. And of course, specifically how today's training fits into it is that it's all about GA4 and the questions you should be asking, or technically that your clients should be asking about GA4. So you've got some tips along that way. Now, of course, we're going to bring on our guest instructor, Julie Brade. She's been doing this for the measurementmarketing.io clients. She runs the Ask an Instructor support system along with the other instructors. She's the lead instructor over there in the Academy for the Academy members. So she's had lots of experience asking questions around GA4 for others and answering questions around GA4 for others in all sorts of different areas, whether it's somebody trying to learn the tool or clients that really need to start using the tool and start making it a priority. So she's done both sides of this, and that's why we felt, of course, she was the best person to actually deliver this workshop. So with that, take it away, Julie Brade.
Thank you so much for that awesome introduction, Mercer. So let's go ahead and talk about the common questions you'll be asked about Google Analytics 4, what we'll refer to as GA4. Now, as we go through this particular workshop, we're going to make sure we focus on how to answer these questions to a client who probably doesn't know much about Google Analytics or the platform or Google Tag Manager, any of that stuff. So we're going to keep our answers really basic, and we're going to make sure that we show value, kind of like what's in it for them. So make sure that they are not hearing work, 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 or pulling you away from other projects that they feel are more valuable. And we're definitely going to make sure we keep it in their language, kind of their lingo, so they can that they don't get lost. Things don't get lost in translation too. So we make sure we keep it basic and we show the value to them so they can understand exactly what it is we're trying to communicate. So the very first question is a pretty basic one. What is Google Analytics for? And we're going to hop into the platform to take a look. So as you can see, Google Analytics 4 is the platform of the future when it comes to Google Analytics. So we'll talk more about the details as we go through this workshop, but just know that to answer it for your client, it's the platform of the future. It's going to make things like measuring across devices a whole lot easier. It's going to make being the privacy, all the privacy stuff you're hearing about, you're going to be more compliant with that. And again, we'll touch on that a little bit more in a moment. But if you use Google Ads, then Google Analytics 4 is going to basically knock your socks off on what you're able to do inside this platform that works inside with Google Ads. It's really cool what you're able to do with that. And so just knowing it's the platform of the future makes everything easier. You're going to be able to measure a whole lot more and get a lot more insights out of it. So that is the basic high-level answer to what is Google Analytics for. So the next question that we usually get is, do you have to migrate to GA4? So if we think of Google Analytics 4 in terms of maybe it's like a game console, like, think Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, and all those things. If you see it as something that you're upgrading to, but the other one's still going to work, that is not a correct assumption, because with analytics, this is the universal analytics, some people call it GA3, you'll see a notice up here that basically tells you, hey, we're not going to collect data anymore sometime in the middle of 2023. And so to answer the question, do you have to migrate? So technically, no, but it is going to be in your best interest to migrate. And so you could go after a paid version. Instead of using Google Analytics 4, you can use a paid tool, which is awesome, great if you want to do that. However, for us, we decided to stick with the Google Analytics 4, the free version, because obviously it's more cost effective, more people are going to be able to use it, and we feel that Google is such a powerhouse, it's going to stay on top of things like privacy. It's going to stay on top of things that we're going to want to be able to know. It's going to make measurement a whole lot more easier, and we've seen that. We've seen that with different platforms and how hard it is to get the answers out. This is like, if you guys know anything about goals inside Universal, it's quite literally switching a toggle is for goal. It just makes so much. Google Analytics 4 is amazing and how much easier it is. You don't have to tell your client that, but just for you to know that it is a whole lot easier for that. And then we're able to get a whole lot more insights out of Google Analytics 4 as opposed to using a paid version for that. So that's just our opinion. But to answer the question, do you have to migrate to GA4? Technically, no, but it really is in your best interest to do so, to migrate to something. And then, like we mentioned, the free version of GA4, we feel like even it's just going to be above any other solution out there. Now, the next question is, do you have to migrate now? And the answer kind of ties into what we just spoke about is technically no, but again, it's in your best interest if you do so with urgency now, as we're getting close to July 2022, and a lot of clients are going to want a year-over-year data. So it would be in your best interest if you migrate as soon as possible. So to answer your client, helping them understand, like we're going to be able to want to see, year over year. So we want to be able to have that data in there, and the more data it has, the faster it's going to be able to do something called data modeling or data-driven analysis. And so basically, it's going to give us more insights, and the more data it has, the faster it's going to be able to do that. So do you need to migrate now? Again, technically no, but it's in your best interest to go ahead and do so. Now the next question, what happens if we do nothing? And so we kind of already mentioned that you could technically go to a paid platform. So that's not something you're going to do. And then if you don't migrate, what happens? So if you don't migrate, and if you've already read all this, eventually, and this is how you would tell your client is eventually you're not going to have data inside Universal Analytics, and then you're going to realize we need to be in GA4, and you're going to be behind. And by choosing to migrate now, you're actually going to be way ahead of everybody else. And you're going to be on the cutting edge, you're going to be ahead of the curve, and you're going to be able to get those insights from that modeled data a whole lot faster. If you choose to do nothing, you're going to be behind because eventually you're going to choose to migrate anyway. So let's talk about the next question. Can we still use the old Google Analytics? And you probably have already been able to figure this answer out, but to talk to the client again, eventually you're not going to have the data and you're going to end up being behind. And you want to be able to, again, start allowing Google Analytics 4 to collect that data. So, there was a time where we were encouraging you to plug in Google Analytics 4, let it collect data, but then you could still use Universal. Now that we're coming up on that year away from deprecation for Universal, we're highly encouraging everyone to use this platform as their platform that they're getting their answers from, meaning the Data Studio and all this other stuff. So to answer the question, can we still use the old Google Analytics? Technically, yes, you can, but again, you're going to be behind. And if you're wanting to be ahead of the curve and getting these insights and learning more about the platform and being able to ask the bigger questions and that this platform is going to be able to help you with, you're going to want to be in here and not relying on the old Universal Analytics. So next one, why am I not hearing more about this? So this is going to be a very common question for the clients that are not so much inside the Google world as we are as measurement marketers. And the answer to this is you will. You absolutely will. And some of you may have already predicted that as soon as we get closer to our deprecation date, it's going to might be even a little bit of chaotic times where everyone's like, oh, we got to figure this out and we got to hurry up and migrate. And I'm kind of figuring that's going to happen about 9 months away. It's probably going to be a shift as soon as we get the 12-month mark, to 12 months away here in a few weeks. And then I feel like as we kind of get closer and closer, it's going to be more and more urgency. So again, the reason that the client may not be hearing more about this is because you, as a measurement marketer, are already way ahead, but they will. They absolutely will. And so what happens to the old data? So this one's a little bit more of a touchy subject to kind of answer right now because there isn't here's Google's response to how to get your old data out of Universal Analytics. There isn't a, easy solution yet. But to respond to your client, you can let them know, this is how we're doing this, just so you guys know, is, we're focusing on migrating over to GA4 and getting all your dashboards and make sure GA4 is able to answer all the questions we want to. Then in 2023, we will focus on finding a solution to grab the data that we want to out of Universal Analytics. And just so you know, one of the solutions could just be simply a spreadsheet. And so that's kind of what our plan is for that. There could be a BigQuery solution or cloud storage or anything like that to be able to do that. But right now, there isn't something that is going to, that's like a easy plug and play, plug and use solution yet. So to answer the client, is what happens to our old data is, again, we're going to focus this year on migrating and getting all the answers we need. Then in 2023, we'll focus on making sure that we get all the data that we need, into some sort of storage solution. That could be a spreadsheet, it could be cloud, it could be whatever it is, but we'll tackle that when that time approaches. And so that way it's something you've heard them, they know that you heard their question, you've acknowledged their question, and they know that, hey, there's a time frame that you will eventually be able to answer that for them. They know you're on this, you've got this. Now, a good question, how will GA4 help? And we kind of hinted at this a few different ways. And the main one that is the way it collects data, it's going to make, just high level way of saying it, is going to make getting answers for very specific behaviors a whole lot easier. You're going to be able to measure things easier. You're going to be able to come in and get answers easier, as we already kind of shown you with getting, marking something as a conversion, which is what we used to call in universal analytics goals. It makes measuring so much easier and getting these results from them a whole lot easier. This is something we have our eyes on a journey. It makes reporting and getting these insights easier. So for your client, it just getting answers for them is going to be easier. Helping them understand certain things that's happening on their funnel or their websites is going to be easier. Something else that we kind of hinted at too, inside Google Ads, they are making it, they just announced something, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot more announcements. They've announced something that has to do with their audiences and, using these events and stuff, are what we've turned into goals and other different things for audiences, and makes it really, really easy. It's so cool what they're doing. It's like really, really nice. And so we're going to have a workshop just about that at a later date. So just know, for high level for your client, is that you're going to be able to do a whole lot more specific targeting with Google Ads because of GA4. And if you set it up right and have the right engagements that you're wanting to measure, it's going to make it a whole lot easier. And then also another really big thing that we'll touch on a little bit more is that it is going to help you be more compliant with things like privacy. And so just like how will Google Analytics help? Those are just the high level things that I think your client would want to be able to know about. Now, how does Google Analytics 4 work with privacy? And we broke this out into a separate question just because we feel like it is really that important right now, and they might be concerned about it depending on the type of market they're in. So the way that Google Analytics 4 handles this is, we know coming into the future of measurement that because of privacy issues or privacy laws or being compliant, is that there's going to be less data to measure from. And because of that, the more data, saying that the wrong way, because there's going to be less data to measure with, the data that we do get is going to be that much more important. And so that, with that said, what Google Analytics 4 is doing is going to help us with data modeling. So because of all the privacy issues and things that we're trying to stay compliant with, Google Analytics 4 has built their system knowing that there's going to be less data. And that's another thing that we mentioned before with those paid options. They're not there yet. They're not ready to kind of be in the future. Google Analytics 4 was built to be in the future to kind of accommodate for these things that they knew was going to happen. They're on the front lines, they know all these things, and so they built their platform to make sure that we were able to still get those insights from that. And so if we go over into this advertising report, we have unplugged and plugged in our data, our Google Analytics 4 so many different times just for teaching purposes. So we don't have enough data for this to start working. So that's the reason why I say hurry up and do it. So you can start seeing different modeled data, and you can see this data-driven model and all this other stuff. So there's different ways that you can see this, but you definitely want to plug your data in as fast as you can so you can start accumulating that so the data modeling can work for you. And something else that your client will probably definitely understand is that Google Analytics 4 is not going to store things like IP addresses or anything else that might get you in trouble with compliance. And so again, the platform was built to make sure that they stayed in compliance, which made sure that you stay in compliance. And so those worries and concerns about making sure analytics was compliant with privacy issues, that is going to be a thing of the past. And again, as new laws change, we know that Google's going to be at the front lines and being able to adjust and pivot faster than any of the other platforms. And so that's what we're really excited for. And we know as the platform continues to change and upgrade, we're going to be seeing more and more of those features. Like we mentioned, the data modeling, it's going to, as it gets more data, we're going to have that And so one of the final questions that you probably have is like, well, how hard is it to migrate over to Google Analytics 4? And the truth is, I want to be totally honest with you, is I used to think it was really, really complicated. And I was like really intimidated to do it. However, once I did it a few times and I realized like, oh my goodness, this is really easy, especially if you already have Universal Analytics and you're using Tag Manager. Migrating over is actually not that hard at all. And we do have different workshops, we have different courses, and we do have an upcoming boot camp that Mercer can tell you about here in just a moment if you are looking to migrate successfully over. So just kind of for you, that's not necessarily for your client, but if you're wondering how you migrate and to make sure your data gets over into GA4 right away, we have you covered. So let's go ahead and take it back to Mercer.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Julie. Again, for those of you who are already in Ask an Instructor in the Academy, you can reach Julie there if you've got any questions over this. If you've got a client question that you're getting that you're not quite sure how to answer, it's a perfect spot to drop that. Also, Academy members, you've got the Winner Circle community, the peer-to-peer back there where all the members are chatting. So you have that option as well. What's your one thing? I know for me, thinking through this, it's the idea that there's a lot of clients, again, clients, not measurement professionals, because all of us have heard about GA4 for a long, long time, but clients haven't. They're not running into it. So if you are a Google Ads agency and you're running traffic and you're reliant on Universal Analytics setups back there, that's a problem. Your stuff is going to go down July 1st, 2023. All those goals will stop collecting new hit data. So you're all of a sudden, imagine what's going to happen to Google Ads conversions, right? So this is, especially if you're a traffic agency, you really need the client to get a little more urgent about this for your sake, not even for theirs. It's also for them, don't get me wrong, but for your sake, because you need good quality information. The sooner, as Julie mentioned, even though technically you have to migrate the second, no, but it is in your best interest to do it, absolutely, right? That it should be urgent, because when you get your GA stuff set up now, it'll start collecting, it'll start being able to model those, the algorithms start doing their crunching and all that fun stuff. And you can connect it into, let's say you're running traffic for Google Ads. As Julie mentioned, you can connect it to Google Ads and get that up and running. So there's a lot of agencies, I fear, in a world of hurt because they don't consider themselves analytics agencies, which I totally get. But they are going to be in the bullseye when this thing goes and it flips over. And if their clients haven't adjusted to GA4, it's going to be a huge problem. So just something to make sure that you work with your clients on. Of course, when it comes to the framework, I would also run the framework by clients and let them know, like, here's how we're doing stuff for you, so if you are handling any of their measurement. But remember, the GA4 stuff, it's really in the planning and the build. Yes, the launch gets a little easier, right? But typically we're using Data Studio or something like that to see all those final numbers, but the data source is GA4. And the plan, our measurement plan, is dramatically improved because we can ask important, bigger questions now from GA4 that were a little tougher to get in Universal Analytics. So that's why GA4 helps you with the framework. Next week's workshop is, of course, GA4 focused. We're going to go into another strategy session because we happen to have 5 Wednesdays this month. And we're going to talk about using GA4 acquisition reports to answer a very important question that as a strategist, you should absolutely be asking. How are users finding us? So we're going to talk about how to actually use those reports back there and give you some different strategies that you can use with your implementation teams to make sure you've got the information that you need to be able to get an answer to this very important question. If you want that workshop, just be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, we're a little over, almost coming up on 4,500, I should say, subscribers. Thank you for all the kind comments, the suggestions for different things that you want to see in the comments. We see them all. Again, I can't personally respond to all of them because we do keep our support really focused on the Academy members. But everything you leave, we do see. So thank you for leaving the kind comments, the words that of encouragement, the things of like, hey, here's some way to improve this would be great. Appreciate that. And then also topics. So if you're like, here's a question, here's something I want to see, we'll be doing that as well. And eventually, we have this already, I think, in the members area, the calendar of upcoming topics. But I might make that public for YouTube too. I'll have to figure out a way to do that so you can see what's coming down for the workshops. The other way, of course, to get the workshop is the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. And yes, you get the most recent workshop Wednesday. You also get all of the tools back there. We're going to have migration tools and everything else back there when it comes to GA4. So you can take advantage of that. Again, completely free. The other big thing, and Julie mentioned this right toward the end, she talked about the boot camps and things like that. Now, again, depending when you're listening to this video, the bootcamp may have already happened, but we are doing a GA4 migration bootcamp. It's a 5-week training. We're going to walk you step by step from moving from Universal to GA4. So by the end of 5 weeks, you're going to have everything that you want that was in GA4 in Universal in GA4, right? And so whether it's for yourself or your clients, we're going to go through that migration bootcamp. So if you want to know about that, Toolbox members are who gets told about that. We put everything through the email list. We typically don't do a ton of advertising other than to those on that list. So if you at all are interested in measurement, it's another reason to become part of the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. Even if you're not ready for the academy yet, it's still a reason to get on that list so you're familiar with the other products and services that might be able to help you out. To do that, just go to measure.tips/WW. It'll ask you for a name and an email. It'll create your account, send the login details. Again, the only thing that we ask is that you use it. If after 90 days or so you're not using it, you're not logging in, totally fine. We're just going to ask you to, probably get a little email that says, hey, is it cool if we remove your spot and free it up for somebody else? Because we don't want to have a limited number of those free memberships there. But if you're using it, totally fine. You can keep it forever as far as we care. We just want people who are actively using it. And you know what it's like. Sometimes you get something, you get what you need, which I've done. I've got what I need sometimes out of things. I don't need them anymore. It's totally fine. I'll free up space for somebody else. But if you want it, it's yours forever for as long as you keep using it. The other option, of course, we talked about earlier was the Measurement Marketing Academy. To learn more about that, really, there's so much to cover, too much that we have here in this video, time left. But go to measure.tips/getacademy, take a look at the page. All the courses are there. Remember, we talked in the very beginning of this workshop about tools versus trade. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to, that they learn how to use a stove or an oven and they go, cool, I must know how to cook now. I must be a chef. And it's just not true. And to bring it down to measurement, there's a lot of people who learn Google Analytics and then think they know measurement. And that is not true. You must understand there's a difference between the trade and the tool. And it is more important right now, more than ever, especially with so much changing in the world of measurement, that you understand digital measurement, measurement strategy, and how to use measurement to improve your marketing. Those are strategy style courses. We got a ton of that back there in the academy. And yes, in order to do that, you will need certain tools like Google Analytics 4, Tag Manager, Data Studio, BigQuery, whatever other tools that might be in your particular tech stack. And that's why we also have those courses back there, plus the workshops, plus the Ask Instructor support, plus the winners community. So please take a look at it. If you are all a professional in this industry and you know this is what you need to be doing, or that you need your organization, more importantly, maybe your organization really needs to be ahead of the curve and get a heads up on this stuff and understand measurement strategy so you can survive kind of the future of what digital measurement is. You go to measure.tips/getacademy, take a look at the current offers that exist there for you. And we look forward to you being in the academy soon. With that, we'll go ahead and bring this one to a close. This has been Strategy Session, talking to your clients about using GA4. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.